Hi everyone, welcome back into the studio. I have been asked to do some lilacs and stuff at a couple of times, and then one of them just the last couple of days on the questions, have I ever done lilacs? If you're searching for something what I have painted before, because I have over 500 and some videos up on the channel, you can go to the main channel page right up at the top search bar, and it says search this channel. Just put in something, whether it's petal edging technique, lilacs, just type in the word lilac and you'll see it. I usually try to put in the title something that I'm painting or in the description, and it will come up and you'll see some of those. So I did a roses and lilacs quite a while ago, and now I'm going to do a kingbird, and this is the kingbird that I saw, and I love the kingbird. Out here in Nebraska we have the kingbird. Back in our studio in Pennsylvania we don't have the kingbird, but I love them out here, and as a matter of fact, one of them came out and landed right in our lilac bush out here that's just beginning to bloom. It's not really in full bloom, but he landed right in there, and I went, hey, let's paint a kingbird and lilacs. So let's do that. So they're a beautiful bird. They're a large bird, a very large bird, up at about the size of an American robin, which is everywhere. But I love them out here when I go out to the farm and I'm mowing grass in the summertime. They're buzzing all around me, trying to grab grasshoppers and stuff. They're a lot of fun. So I thought I'd put some lilacs out through here. I went out and just got some reference photos. It's nothing big. And then I kind of sketched on. I start with, when I'm doing them, I start with an oval and an oval here, oval for their head, and then here. And I decided to turn his head just a little bit more. And to do that, you can see the beak enters the head just a little bit different here, so it's going to help turn his head this way and stuff. But I do like the his big primaries, secondaries, these coverts up here, the mantle that comes down. I love all the colors in this one, even though he's puffed up a little bit. I like him just a little bit skinnier, but anyway, so it'll be a lot of fun. We'll put some of that down, and maybe some of those different colored lilacs that you don't always get, but let's do that. All right, so let's have some fun. So my palette here is my standard palette that I have out here. All the colors that I use, everything that I use, I put links in the video description. You can go over to Amazon. You can go over to our studio. If you ever have questions or can't find anything, you can just email our studio at jansenartstudio@aol.com. And again, or just go over to our online store and hit the contact, and they'll answer any of your questions for you, okay? Because they're always there. My daughter runs that, so she's very good at it. Okay. So this board is 12 inches this way, 16 inches this way. You can shorten it down to an 11 by 14, which makes it more of a frameable size. There are places that do make that really nice 12 by 16 frames, and they're on the internet like Frames USA and stuff like that, and you can get them really reasonable. And then I gave it a coat of the canvas prep medium. This is what I use on all the boards and stuff. And I showed you, this is the MDF, and I've showed you in some of the others. Over on our other channel, our beginning channel that we have, the Paint It Simply. If you haven't gone over there, you should go over there, because I have a lot of beginning videos there. This is an MDF panel that I get. It's a 1/8 inch panel. And I cut this up to the size that I want. It's very nice. It is archival. It doesn't use any toxic products in the manufacturing of it, as opposed to 10 years ago they did. Now they don't. So I give it a coat of that, and then I sand it. I give it a coat of the canvas prep medium, and then I sand it. This is painter sandpaper. I use 180 grit. I don't like it to be super smooth, because then it makes it too slick. So I give it one coat, sand it lightly, and then I can start my sketching. All right, so let's get going. So I have my colors out. The one addition that I'm making is a little bit of medium beige, and I do like medium beige for making some of the soft grays colors here. So I'm going to take some of this down here. I love beige and a little bit of blue. It just makes a lovely kind of a bluish gray here. Do you see that? I love this color, and it's a soft color. And then I'm going to, rather than use all of my white that's there, I was almost out of white when I went and grabbed this. Let's put out a little bit more light or white and lighten that up a bit. I like to start, if I'm going to paint the lilacs and stuff, I don't like them to be too much on a very, very dark background. See, that's a beautiful kind of a gray. It's up here value-wise. Remember, it will dry a little darker. So here I was at an 8, so it'll probably drop down to about a 7. Is what I want set at 8 now. So we know the acrylics dry a little bit darker, so that ought to be kind of nice. Let's just use some water in this. Maybe, well, let's add some extender. I'll show you how we're going to start some of the lilacs out first. So let's put a little extender. This is my 2-inch brush. We'll put a little extender in there. This will keep the color wet here for a while. Okay, and I'm going to paint it casual, which means, you know, what does that mean? It means I am going to leave some of the background, some of the original white show through, some of the, you know, sometimes I'll do some real heavy colors like right here, and then I'll let white and stuff show through as well. I just, you know, I love to paint more casual today. And you see me going a lot this way here. And this is because I get some motion and stuff to my background. I like it to do what we call St. Anthony's Cross, or St. Andrew's Cross, excuse me. It goes, so I have my background going this way, I have my bird going this way, and that just gives you a tremendous amount of interest. Works really, really well. Let's just back out just a bit here. My bird, I'm going to leave some of this for lost edges right over my bird here. But I like that. See, and I leave, and this kind of stuff happens, and I really like that. Okay, and if you want yours more smooth, make yours more smooth. I'm going to grab, so that was my 2-inch brush, one of my favorite brushes to paint with now. It used to be for years, you go on the channel, and you see it's always I'm grabbing a 3/4 inch. Now I'm up to a 1-inch. I love the 1-inch. Let's pull some colors. So I love this color that's in here, which is going to be our red violet. Let's leave a little bit of this here so we can touch into it if we need to. Red violet and blue, beautiful deep rich color here. We'll soften that just a bit with some white, maybe a bit of our grayed background. Let's see what that looks like. And see, I'm just going to do small little X motions like this and leave those rough edges that you have right out here. Now, I have extender on the surface, so it's gonna dry slow. And boy, I really do like that way that looks. Let's take some of that, maybe change the color just a bit. Maybe a bit more blue, a bit more, and don't mix it real well. You get a much prettier effect if you don't mix it real well. So let's take some of this and just casually push this out down here. That's kind of pretty, like that lilac is coming through there. We can always add more later, and maybe a little bit more red to this. And when I'm doing something like this, see, I have a newer one here, but I have my older one. See how it's kind of split a little bit? I love to do these kind of effects with a slightly older brush because that's where you get the split ends here. And so don't ever throw away older brushes that get like this, because they work backgrounds and stuff and different techniques really, really well. So don't ever get rid of them. They're amazing. Let's go a little bit lighter violet here. This is a pretty one. Maybe just a touch of the blue into that. Let's put some of this pinker color in over here into the background here with this, maybe a couple marks of it over here, and see, just real soft. And then we'll build the other violet colors right up on top of this after this dries out. Maybe a few little touches or marks of those colors, you know, right out through here, touch them into the background. Now this is a little tacky, not completely. And so if that and I don't need to because I'm almost done. But if that happens, just add a little bit more extender as you're working it, and it'll work in real nice. I can still work that edge, see? I can still work that edge pretty nice, so I'm not going to worry about it. But you can do that. Now, let's go with a slightly lighter blue, and we'll add just a few tones of that blue in here, right into this area. I love that blue coming in. So let's just add a few little tones of it right in here. That's kind of nice. Right in there. Now, we can take, so this is my number 10. And again, it's not a super new one. But we can take this, a little bit of blue, and red violet here. Some of this softer, just a little darker. And we can hit a few darker violets in here. Before, especially right around where we're going to want the contrast of the bird. You know, so he's got these light colors and the yellows that'll come up right here. So it'd be really pretty to get some of these blues, some of these darker tones right in here that he'll play right up against that will give us some nice contrast here. So let's just go ahead and use a little artist license here and add a few darker just marks. And see, I'm just like little X motions, and as I move out this way, I lift the pressure on my brush. So I'm barely, I call it whisper painting. I just whisper the surface here, barely whisper the surface there. And see, that creates this contrast right here. Now, we're going to want to really have some of that contrast right up around his face because, you know, we want this bird to have a lot of contrast up there. Let's go more of the violet. So we might want to have a little darker right up around here where he is going to contrast right up there. And we can fool it and make his head a little lighter if we need to, but a little bit like that will. So I'm controlling where I put this dark. I'm controlling where the viewer is going to see first. Does that make sense? So I'll push some of that around. Let's take some of this out a little further. Beautiful colors. Let's add some of this lighter blue in here as well, just to bring up some of that color here. That's pretty. That works. Here. And when I do this, I just love the coloring that you can create through here. Building it. Let's go just a little more of that pinky color right out here. See, it just sets a real soft violets for him. And of course, we're going to want to put some stems, you know, light violets, violet colors on lilacs. Okay. But, you know, he's got these, ours have these real thick stems. They're real woody. I'm just going to take a little green and some burnt sienna here, and I'll draw some more woody stems and right up through here that will give him, so he's not just going to be floating on these flowers here. We'll have some more woody colors here that will come through, and then in thicker here, and we'll of course build a few more and stuff, and we could have a few angles of it and stuff right out here, just, you know, coming through. So you pick up, ours right now of course has lots of woody because it's just coming into the spring, out of the winter. And matter of fact, we still had, just a couple weeks ago we had snow, so but they're starting to bloom out there finally. And here it is in the middle of May, and we're just beginning to come out of it, so a little late this time. Let's go just a bit more here. Some of the blue and violet, a bit more right out here, and cover up some of that wood right there. That'll be kind of neat. We do want to have it kind of poking out every once in a while here, though, because that's where his legs would normally come down or perch right in there. So we're going to want to have something in there. We're not sure yet. Okay, so that gives us some nice soft bits for him. Let's take our big brush. Let's take some of this background gray into some of this blue. This is really close to his grayness that's on here. Yeah, and maybe I love the grays that come also from burnt sienna and blue. And so it's, you know, having a little heavier on the blue, burnt sienna and blue, beautiful gray colors here. This would be nice for him right up and through here. And again, I'm using my 10 here. It's a little bit big, but I want to make a real beautiful bird. We'll come close to his eye, but not into his eye. We've got to get this modeling of color. And see, you can see some of these places here where the burnt sienna comes out and stuff, and I like that. And that's what I'm looking for. Let's go more to that yellowish green a little bit that is going to go along his back. So I'll just pick up some yellow oxide, maybe just a touch of that green into that. Up and along his back here, his mantle here. We'll drop some of that color in so you see that particular color there. And again, modeled in with the other colors you're using. Let's get a little blue in this gray. See, slightly different. This is what makes your bird pretty. You know, is when you come in and you pick up just some different colors. See, I love that color right up there. Let's put some of that right in here for right now. And we'll really pop some colors on there to make him pop out, but that looks pretty good. Let's get some of our lighter yellow. So usually in a lot of the bird paintings, you always hear me say, I pick for undertones. Undertones are colors that you see under. It's not the lightest, it's not the darkest, it's the tone that you see under some of the top feathers. And I start painting that way. So, you know, we have some real light yellows here, but there's an undertone that's in there that's kind of a tan, yellowy, almost greenish color here. And that's what I'll be looking for. And I'll just grab just a touch of that. And we'll come up over here and we'll start. And see that right there, see that yellow playing against its complement into the violets is really what I want to do with this bird here. And then we'll put maybe some of the violets right up over the top to him and kind of sink him into that area there. That might be kind of nice. Let's take some of this woody color, some of this, model this all together here, because you can see all of these multiple tones right in there. And we'll just drop some of that right in here. And I'll come back and really paint his feathers. I'm just looking for some of that tone. Let's grab a bit of this violet. Maybe I do like that blue. Burnt sienna makes those darker type tones in there. And I see, so I'm just looking for tones, for coloring and stuff. Slightly more greenish here, right down through here, here. A little extender. I use the extender because I love how it slides, makes my brush slide over the surface. Now see, I'm starting to grab some of those tones I see in there. Not perfect, not yet, but I'm just starting to grab them. Let's grab this blue here, just a touch more burnt sienna, and we'll get this darker tone that is under his chin there, right in there. Work that in. See, that's just beautiful tones there. So, and of course, we'll put the white in and stuff, but you'll see that dark. And you'll see some of this dark coming in here in a band between his eye and his beak there. You'll see some of this dark coming right down here into his secondaries and down, really all the way down through his primaries here. And so I'm just going to push in the area here. We'll divide that up into some feathers in just a little bit. You can do it now, but this is where I really enjoy painting, is just putting in the color, the tone, see? Now let's get that darker, a little more blue, a little more burnt sienna, darker yet. And we'll put in the idea of his tail here. And again, I'm going to slightly suggest his tail here. I'm not going to get wild and crazy with the precision of it. I'm going to bring the viewer closer into the bird himself, and so I'll push this like this and let those edges of his tail and stuff stay soft, because it's a real dark color, and it can overpower him real quick if we're not careful. So, and we'll just put in his primaries there maybe a little better. So now you can see I got the idea of that. And then I got a lot of modeling of the tones. So now I'll come back. We'll go grab a smaller brush. Let's grab one of my favorites, number 4 painting here. And we'll come in and work some more colors. First, let's take some of this nice dark that I had here, and I'll just lightly use the chisel of it here, the chisel, to set in his beak, maybe a little more dark on the bottom. We got this blue and burnt sienna that I see in the original one there, which I really like. Now, maybe a touch of that nice dark right down there. We'll put the light color in just a minute. But let's just touch a little bit of that. Look for areas that you might see small marks of this tone. And just add the tone. Don't feather him yet. Just add the tone so that we can see where some of that is. Where else do you see it? Maybe right up underneath here. Got to get a little more paint. It's when you paint, I put that paint on really thin so the next color will slide on it. So I have to use a little thicker paint to get that, because my base on here is thin. So I have to use a little thicker paint. Let's put a bit of that right down his chest here. Maybe some of that right down into the shadow down here. And see, I'll just push because I want this to stay soft down in there. See? Okay. So you can see I'm kind of capturing the colors. I need a little bit lighter right down through there. And I'm going to come through. And so like right in here, maybe I'll take some of this lighter violet-y kind of blue. Let's just toss a little bit of that, smush that around. Maybe a bit of this right up next to where he's going to be right in here. So, and brush that out a bit. You know, and so if I feel like, yeah, I want to really, I'm going to bring him forward, sometimes I'll take water. Water is your solvent, right? So I'll take water and I'll run water right into that and soften that around right in there. Okay, so that I can soften some of this mark. And so it becomes more about his brush movement and stuff in there. Let's soften that a little more water right in there. So a little more water, which is your solvent. And over on the Painted Simply channel, I've been teaching you a lot of painting roses, painting everything with no mediums, only water, showing you how to do water techniques with that. And they are such valuable techniques. Let's take a little bit of this lighter blue. And see, I'll correct some of him right in here and push some of those colors in. So he's going to advance out of there. All right. Now, let's get some of that advancing of him a bit more. Let's take some of this dark. Let's use that right up here on the top part of his head. And, yeah, we might fudge a little bit of artistic license here. And I lost the top part of his beak, so we'll put that in. A little bit of artistic license as we go to paint him here, adjusting a few things here and there. And we can do that. We're artists. Let's adjust this out just a bit. I want him just a bit wider right there. There we go. And I know it's really close and it's hard to see sometimes, but it's all going to work. It's all going to work. I hope. No, it'll work. We're professionals. We can do this, okay? But, you know, that's the one thing. I laugh and I have a good time because I have a good time. And sometimes I just screw it all up when I go paint it too much, and that's okay because I know how to fix it. Maybe not right away, but I know I can fix it, okay? That's why I never worry about it. I'm going to take a little bit of blue, a little burnt sienna. Now, when I paint birds, this is just a small little filbert. I love to put a little bit of burnt sienna into their eye, especially towards the back part of the eye, because it just warms it up. And it goes so well when I start to put this dark in as well, right in there, for where his eye's going to be. Now, we haven't started any of our contrasting lights, and that's a little bit big for his eye. And so I'll adjust that a bit. But I want to let's get some of these. We have this lighter gray, which is just such a pretty gray. And let's just restate some of that first, right in here. Just pull down. I'm going to use this little number 2. Just pull down like that, okay? And then model it up. Let's go grab just some of this dirty color and pull down through that just to set some motion. Now, what I do when I'm reading something like that is I'm reading the motion that I see in the feathers, and that's what I want to add to the bird here, that motion that I see here. Now, here's the other thing. Look at how this gray here is still wet. Do you see how it's still wet? I mixed up enough of it on the palette knife. Some of the yellow that I used up here later on, this was the first part of the painting, later on is dried up. Now, what's the difference? And everyone asks me, what is the slight difference there? What did I do to that gray that's different? First, I mixed it up so there's more paint there, right? There's more paint on the palette, so it's going to take longer to dry. And also added just a touch of extender to that, remember? So this doesn't have any extender in it, this does. So if you're living in a super dry area, you have to get used to just brush mixing and constantly brush mixing in extender. That's your main painting medium, and that'll help you keep your colors wetter longer. So let's just work right around here, and we'll come more straight back right in here and then down this side as we start to lighten his head a little bit. See where my hand is on my brush? Way back here. As I start to find, what am I reading right in here? Some of the movement of the feathers here. Where those feathers, how those feathers are working. Right in there. Let's go a little lighter, a little bit of white. Tap that in right here. See, I'm not adding any extender. If you're in a real dry area, add some extender. And see how thick I'm using that here. We'll add a few strokes of this down because that's where I see coming down his throat there. Okay. Maybe pick up a little bit more. And let's make just a few little marks here. Pull down. I like to keep it mostly acrylic because, see, I can grab this white and pull down, and then it drags over the surface. If it's too wet, it blends in right away, and I don't like that. I like it to stick up on top. So you'll see me really like to paint a lot of acrylics. So I'll drag this lightly up over here, a few little marks here. Okay, and then maybe a little more light here. And if it blends too much, if it doesn't stick out like this where it's sitting up on top, blends too much, I'll let that tack up a bit. That's what I like to do. Let's take a little bit of this gray and work this right down here. Boom, 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 boom. And that just gives that look or mark, a little bit of streak, which will give me that look of the feathers, which is what I want. A little dark again, right up here. Let's just restate that right in there, okay? And maybe that little bit of light coming off right here. Just a pretty color. And so, when you're a beginning artist, you don't see all of that because you can't. Your eye isn't trained enough to see all the subtle little movements of tone. As you get better, you start to see more and more movements of tone, and your eye will pick up more subtle changes. And that's what happens. That's the natural progression of being an artist. And so, it's what I try to do is constantly look back and forth for small movements of tone. And that's what makes it the prettiest. And little movements, always following his contours here. Let's reset. I'm going to go back to my little number 4 here. Let's reset. And another really more neutral of a gray is the blue and red here. It's a nice neutral kind of dark. Let's push that right in there. Nice dark, almost black. And we'll push that onto the lower part of him as well, right in there. Okay. And they do have a big beak right there. They do have that big beak. Let's put that light, let's put an edge of that light gray right in here. And, the beak, let me just find the best way here with this brush. Here. And that's just a touch off. So I'll paint it into position. I love to paint stuff into position, especially my lights with a little bit of my dark. And I took out just a little bit too much, so we get the opportunity to do that one again. There, okay. And let's just adjust that with just a touch of gray. And I'll go back and forth like that several times in the painting to fix him up a bit. Let's take some of this. Now this is dry right here, so, but I know it's still there, so I'll just grab some water and see how I reconstitute it here. And let's just paint this pink right up here by him, right up by his head here. Soften some of that out, and that will bring his head forward. Let's put just a bit of that right back here. Just right up like that. That'll bring his head even farther forward there. And allow me, let's go a little bit more light. Right up here, right up in here. Pull that down. And see, I love to drag through that. That's what gives that more of a feathery look there. And especially as this starts to tack up, let's push a bit of that light here. And you see, I work my fingers, I work that back and forth until I get the look that I like. Now, I hit to the outside there, and I don't worry about that. I can just come back here with a little water, reconstitute just a touch of that color, and take that out. Looks like you know what you're doing there, okay? So, now let's get back to some of this gray. Just a little bit darker gray right in here. Tap that right along in here. Soften some of that color. Let's go a little more blue and red. Slightly different tone than before. Just to build that beak up there just a bit more. Yeah. Maybe down this edge just a touch. Some of that right down here. You can see a touch of a mark pulling down right there, which is kind of pretty. And, you know, this is where, you know, how much time, how much do you put in here? This is all up to you. You know, I'll put just a little bit more right in there. You know, in the beginning, those of you that are beginners, you know, maybe you don't see that much, and that's okay. That will come. Let's go a little bit burnt sienna blue here. Keep it just a touch more to the blue with some of this gray. So I get kind of this bluish gray here, which is what he has on the back of his head here. Right here, and I think that that's a pretty tone with this painting right in there. I think that's just see how it picks up that, but it's a little bit different, but it picks it up. That looks really neat, I think. And that's the part of the thing too, you know, and this, his head, some of these feathers pull back around this way. And see, I'll put the color on, just drag my finger, so it drags the movement back down through like that. And it looks pretty neat. Let's, now see, this is where we can start playing slightly. Let's take some of that light. See, I reconstituted that. Let's take some of that light and push some of this light right in here and just lighten up some of this color right here. See? And you can see as I do that, he starts to come even farther forward here. And there we go. Right in there. And I'll model some of that up a bit. And there he comes farther forward. And the more I do that, the more I can work that blue and some of these other tone colors right in here. Pull down just a bit more onto his light color there. And that's pretty good. Let's work. So I'll set that 4 in the water there for a minute. Let's work the eye ring. Now, normally you see me in a lot of things. I will do the eye ring and everything, which is the lower part of the eye ring here, with a smaller. Matter of fact, maybe I will. My hands feel just a little bit shaky today, And it could be from a lot of things. Could be from the 3 cups of coffee that I normally don't have that I did have this morning. So that could be too. But our teacher, my rosemalling teacher, just a quick little thing here. For years and years and years, I studied with the master. For 17 years, I studied with the master in rosemalling. That's why you see so much Norwegian rosemalling. I used to travel the world and teach rosemalling everywhere. But on the day that we were going to do basically the scrolls and your most mechanical control, he never allowed us to drink coffee at all because it causes your hand to shake. I'm just going to take my small round. I usually don't like this because it leaves a little bit of a ridge, but I'm a little bit shaky today, so just a little bit. And so I'll add some of that eye-ring detail there. And but I do really like painting it with the small filbert as opposed to the round. That is my favorite. And let's just take some dark right with my little number 2 filbert, and I'll paint right up next to it, taking it out every once in a while. And see, that adjusts it to a more natural look, which is what I want to do. And let's touch back and forth right up here and put a bit of that dark right in there. That looks pretty good. Maybe just a whisper of this color right around the front. Just a little whisper to get this top of the eye ring there. Some motion there as well with his eye. He has the tiniest little catch light right up there. And I'll go back to just a point, a little bit of gray, not a pure white, a little bit of gray. And let's just come up and just about 1 o'clock, just shy of that, we'll push that catch light in there, and maybe a touch of blue underneath it, just as a little bit more dark. I want to increase that catch light. It's a bright, it looks now like I just nailed it, like with what you see in the photo, but I want that just a bit more. Let's just hit that catch light ever so light. There we go. And maybe let's bring up the light right in here on his beak. Sometimes you see this difference in their beak and stuff, right? Like this one you see, and then sometimes you don't see that. You know, sometimes you don't see that kind of at all, you know, so let's just shape into that, push into that here, and just reshape some of that. And I've got it so that he's got a little downward smile there because I have it sloping down a little bit. So then I just take my flat across and take out too much of it. And then I get to go back. I always like to give myself the opportunity to repeat it again. And this is an older number 4, so it's not a real good chisel. But so I'll have to fix that a couple times. But this is where I really like to do it, guys, with an old brush back and forth. And so I'm constantly talking to you about your edges. You know, what makes a beautiful painting, the edges. And so, and this one is starting to flare out a little bit, and you can see it right flaring out at the tip there. And so it makes it a little harder to paint, but boy, howdy, it does really nice edges. So let's go here. Let's grab some of this blue and this burnt sienna. Let's add I also put out some open medium. This is Matisse Deravan open medium. And I do like this if I'm going to do some heavier feathers, marks, and it's going to keep it wet for a longer time. So I might come in here and just start adding some of this tone in here. And this is where I will also, when I'm doing some of this tone, I will sometimes overdo the tone. In other words, a little more than what I see. So I might just push some of this right in here. And see, I just push with my finger, and it'll push that tone back in there really softly. Maybe I'll push a little bit of it back in here. Helps that receding line. And it really works kind of nice right there. I got that, and I think I'll do it with my number 2. I'll go back and revisit some things, and I don't like how that goes in there, so let's put in a bigger little splash of that color. And then let's take this out. Instead of using that same dark, let's take it out with a little burnt sienna. So it looks like a slightly different little tone right in there. That's better. That is much better, actually. And I like that better. Now, okay, let's go back to our 4. And we're going to take a little green and a little bit of the burnt sienna and some yellow, and we'll add this right in here to his mantle and just push. See, a little bit of that open medium. This is going to allow me to push. It's going to stay wet. Now, let's lighten that up. Even some of this beautiful gray. Let's just toss that in. Toss in some open medium. This is going to keep it wetter longer. And I'll work that right through there. Push that just a bit. And see, just by not blending it too much, I'll leave some of these little striations of color. Let's go lighter. And that's what really makes it look more like feathers, see? A little lighter, little striations there. Boom. And that gets a little closer. Let's slide over here to some of the dark. We'll push some of that along. Ooh, love that little blue that just came out. Maybe some mid-tone here. Pulling down slightly this time. Gives a different look to his feathers right there. A little bit more burnt sienna, yellow, tiny bit of green here. Right up here. Pull down slightly. Love that tone. Let's model in some light. And what I'm doing here is just emulating the look of the feathers. You see, I'm not going to, you've seen me on other birds come in and do absolutely perfect stuff. I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to emulate him because it's how I'm going to paint the lilacs. So I want his technique to go with the lilacs. So I have to use this kind of model-y kind of technique here. Now let's increase the light right in here, which is what we see on him, right across like that. Okay, that widens that out a little bit more light. And he's a little different. He's a little bit more white right in here and built up more than what I had here. So I can just grab some of that light. And see, I can even use my finger to kind of push it into the directions of the feathers there, giving me that contrast. Or you can use a smaller brush, especially if you're not comfortable, and especially if you don't know the chemistry behind your paints. Don't touch them, because you don't know what's in them. I developed these, so I know what's in them, so I'm not afraid. But also, you could still have allergies to everything, so never touch anything unless you really know. And, you can always use a brush, guys. Always use a brush. But I like the touch. There we go. So that's kind of pretty with him there. I feel I can soften, now that I got all that, I feel I can soften this top edge here just a bit more. And he'll still come forward there, like that. And yeah, I like that. And I've got to push more to his shoulder, so let's go back up towards this middle here. And we'll just lift this up, building his shoulder just a touch more. There, that's pretty, that works. But I start to look for, where do I see little tones, little marks, and that's when I start to add those in. And so somewhere right in here, we're going to shift down. Let's do some of here. Let's go down here to some of these yellows. Let's go to our Hansa Yellow, lighter yellow. Let's just drop some of that in. Get some of that on him, a little bit of light. And you'll see when I start to paint these other outside areas, I'm going to start working, and this is, especially for those of you that really want to upgrade how you do things, I start working faster and faster when I want something more casual. Does that make sense? So I start working faster and faster so I don't play with it. And I'm looking for the stroke or the mark, the one or two little marks that will be enough to say, hey, yeah, that's done. So here's a little bit of yellow oxide, some of the dirty burnt sienna right in there. We could even add, we'll use artist license here, and add just a touch of this violety color right in here, which would be pretty right in him, right like that. Push a bit of that instead of that bluish tone that you see right up there. Now we can have that bluish tone. We can go ahead and just grab some of that and push that down. But we want to get this, they're very much this beautiful yellow here. So we do want to get some of that in him. Okay, and let's build that just a bit more right in here. Let's get a bit more yellow, maybe some of this light, and quick little more, too much white. It'll chalk it out, make it look too chalky. Here we go. Just quick little bits here, right in there, and just a touch more light right there, like that. That's pretty on him. Let's now, how are we going to do his feathers? You see me do feathers all different kinds of ways. I'm going to negative paint these feathers, which means I'm going to come right down here. I want to leave that dark, but I'm going to come right down here with some light, and I'm going to push the light, which is what I see in the secondaries and stuff here, or these would be his tarsals right here. Probably see primary, secondary, tarsals, yeah. And so I'll see that right in there, maybe a bit more light right on the edge. You'll see me sometimes use, with roses, I use what is called the petal edging technique. I roll the brush on its side and I almost draw it. And I don't always like to use it. You see me in some of my bird books, I really describe how to paint feathers, all different kinds of ways to paint feathers. But so I'll put that edge on there. I don't always like to do it because the feathers start to overpower some of the looks of the bird. So I'll start to take them out just a little bit until I feel like I don't take the bird out as much. Let's go into some of these grays here. And green and burnt sienna's beautiful tone on him. Beautiful, beautiful tone on him. Just a touch of light here. And let the green and the burnt sienna change. And then we come in, we'll start right up here and we paint down and we stop at the edge of the feather. So I'll come right back up in here, paint down, leaving the little light edge of the feather. And this is when I want to paint a bird that I have more detail on. But I don't want to get too much wrapped up in that on him because I don't want that to control him. I want your face up and around in here. Does that make sense? Now there's some darker marks. Let's get our red and blue here. Darker little marks here. Right up and around here we can do some dark feathering, little marks. We can use some of that light to just paint down a little bit more and a little bit more, changing the tone. See, the tone changes, and this is what makes him kind of pretty. See, we'll push some of these marks, model this up a bit, boom, right up in there. See, and that gives him look. So how much of that edge, how much are you going to want to do? I'm not going to want to really do a tremendous amount here. I'll take some of this. Let's do some of it back here. So we'll push some right in here. Maybe this line here on his secondaries. We'll push these lines, maybe a few of them here, but softer, not as light. Definitely not as light as what I see on him, because those are light little edges there. Let's go to our burnt sienna. A little bit of blue, a little bit of green into that, so it's a nice darker tone, but more burnt sienna, Dave. More, model it up. Let's pull this down, following kind of his contour. See, and leave that light little edge. So this is what I call negative feathering here, because I'm actually painting out the feather, the original light that I put on the feather. And so I use negative painting techniques. You see me paint, all kinds of, oh, I really like that. Let's put a edge of light right in here. Just a soft edge of light. See, I can do it softer. by not having a pure light or something on there, I can still give the edge of it without having it perfect light. If that makes sense, we can draw a little bit more light here. Just the idea of it, and then paint it out. Paint out the majority of it, what you don't need. So you get the feeling of feathers, but we don't want to get crazy detailed with those feathers, because this is a lot of detail that actually detracts from him. And so I want your eye can come right back up here. So let's paint out some of this dark right in there. And we can, again, we can reset or adjust the, a little more burnt sienna here. We can adjust the lights. If we need to have more lights, we can certainly go back and add some more, you know, because it's easy. It's an easy thing to add. Very easy thing to add. He has a little bit more of a light that's going to come right down the edge of that. See, I can put the light edge on, and then I can take my neutral here and just kind of paint through and soften it out so that we don't create too much contrast out there. Sometimes it's kind of nice to create a few. Like I might come up here and just create a little bit more right up in here of these light colors right up here, coming right in there, just like that. And then take my softer sienna and stuff and just take some of it out. So I get the feeling of a little bit of the feathering that's going on there, but you don't get a tremendous amount here. Let's take a bit more light and yellow right in here. Maybe use an artist license and make this just a bit more light right there. And pull that down so he gets just a little bit more. Maybe even a touch lighter yet. You're controlling that, right? You're in the... That's yours. You control that. Boom. So there we go. Just like that. And let's take some of this soft light right here. Let's push a little more soft light down his back here. A few more little looks of feathers, which is kind of nice. Maybe a softer gray. And see, just break up some of, if any area that is kind of too heavy, you can just break it up a bit there. And that looks pretty good. Softer. A little bit of open medium here. I love the transparency this can give it as well. Stroking through here like that. Let's get a little more open medium and dark here. Right up in here. Right up in there. And I took out some of that light edge there. I could add it back in, but I'm not bothered by it too much. I like that softness that's right down in him. Let's get that darker. There's a bit of a darker feathery look right in here that's happening, and it's just another tone onto the feathers, and I kind of like that. So I'll just pull down like this and just add some of that tone, see? Add that in there, just like we did at the very beginning, finding that undertone on him and just pulling a bit of that. I love that darker little tone there. So I'm just, and you know, we could use that basically almost like a negative painting right up underneath here to lift his wing too if we wanted, and just soften the edge. Now, see, that's all dry right there, right? And I can put more yellow on there, but let's go back to what I'm showing over on the Paint It Simply channel. And what I would do is take a damp brush with water and see how I can just pull through it a couple times. Just one, rinse my brush, do it again, pull down through there again. See how it's blending that off, see? And so I'm using water as the solvent to kick that little bit of an edge. So, you know, maybe you want to have, that's a lot of contrast on that wing right there, but you do see that there, and we can emulate it if we want to. Take a little bit of water. Now, I could take a little water and a little yellow, put those together, water and yellow, and use the yellow will help soften it. The water will be your solvent to make it the two come together. And see, I can bring the two together like that right in there. It, you know, when you're painting with acrylics, and what, I put that down 40 minutes ago or so, and I can still react it. Yeah, you know, that all depends how long you can do that. All depends on where you live, the humidity, and all that kind of good stuff. But with the Heritage, you can do it for a couple of hours. And then if you add extenders and all that kind of stuff, you have longer. You can do it for even longer, okay? Now, let's just take and emulate his leg and stuff coming out of here, because he should have one. So we'll just emulate it. Little red and blue here. And we're going to hide it, so you know, we'll just pull some of the feathers over that and just let that sit in there. So there, I kind of like that. I kind of like him really rough back through there. I love the roughness of him. I mean, we could come in and detail him up a little bit more. Like we could take a tiny bit more light right up here to the front of the eye ring and push a little bit more. Tap along the eye ring just a bit and see how much more character that gives him. So whenever you go, and don't blend it. Just if you're putting on a mark to add interest, don't blend it. Okay? Leave that mark for interest. And look, we can add a few little marks or a few little feathery lights with just a point. This is a long round, pointed round that we have. I have a shorter one and this long one. And if I want something super casual, I go to this really long watercolor round. And because the tip of it is so soft, and it does really nice little looks here. Here we go, little bit of feathering look here. Let's grab, see, this is still wet over here where I had that paint. Still works. We can add a few shorter marks to get some of that feathers look and feathery look around here going on him. Let's work that back and forth a bit. That works pretty nice. Let's put a real dark and blue here up along the top edge of this beak. Form that nice line. Boom. Right there. And yeah, that works. That works really well. Let's maybe take just a little bit of that dark, little feathering. So see, I'm just adding little feathering marks. The smallest little tips of feathers, if you had the bird books and stuff, you'll see I talk you through that a lot, that there's just, you know, just the tiniest little feathers on the bird are right up there onto his head between his eyes and his beak. And let's just to bring that out just a bit more there and pull that down. And I want, you know, I see on his one there, that beak's real dark, but I see the tiniest little reddish burnt sienna, and I want that tone right where this beak is coming right into his head, right in there. I want that redder tone because that's really pretty on him right there. I know the camera probably can't pick that all up. So his head is turned a little bit more sideways in this one than it does, you know, on that one over there. And I could probably drop this line just a touch. Then we'll go paint the lilacs. Let's just take a little bit of light here and come right, that's a little too bright. Gray it with a little bit of blue and burnt sienna here. Here we go. Right in there like that. That works just. Yeah, that works. And I took out that original shadow that I put on there, and I might bring that back Just a whisper of it right there. Let's get into some, though, here what, to soften this, see, I just take the one color right up over the other, and that softens that line. That's what I'm looking for. And let's get a little softer, even some of that violet into that. That just brings this violety gray right into his face, and I like that. And maybe a mark or two of that violety gray right in there. That's kind of pretty. You see that? And you know, and you're down to that. Is looking at what little marks will do, and if you don't like it, take it out, push it out and stuff. But it does make pretty little marks there. Okay, now let's go in and let's work some of these lighter. And we want to keep everything. I'm going to go back to like my number 10 here. Okay, something like my number 10. And well, let's go grab the one I used originally. There it is, wet. Okay, so let's go in and we're just going to start shaping up. Let's just grab some of this blue and the violets here and some whites and some of our gray. Beautiful light colors. We'll add some open medium to this. We're going to model all this. This is what's going to keep the lilacs pretty. And we can add more blue over here to make them more blue. This is what's going to keep them really pretty by modeling all these colors. Let's start right up here. And we'll start, and see, I'll start, and I'm just going to start shaping them. I'm not going to paint individual petals, especially right up around here, around on him, or his face. I don't want to get too much of that detail up there, but I want to give the idea of light petals, if that makes sense. Okay, here, and push some of that around right in there. And if I find that it's too much, I'll take some of it out. But so we had some of these violet colors right in here, and the actual lilacs are really small, so your marks are really small. Now, just like you see on a lot of lilacs, they have that lighter outside ring, and then that goes around the petal. So if you wanted to do something like that, let's put one right in here. We'll do a petal with a lighter outside ring to it, and then what you can do is just like a negative paint onto the feather, so you can paint something that's a little lighter. You can come back with a little dark right onto the inside and take out, leaving that light little ring. That would give you some really pretty lilacs. And the lilacs they don't really round too much onto the edges. You get a lot of these, like you can see, little darker areas, darker tones and stuff going on here. You can go to a small brush, but I want to keep the marks as large as possible so that they don't get too detailed and take away from the bird. So it's like here I can give the feeling of that dark right there, and just take my dirty paper towel and take it out here. Add some open medium. Open medium is really nice to get some of these darks in here. Just touch to get the corners in here. Okay, zoom. Build up some of these colors. Let's go back. Some of this lighter little color right in here. Take some of those shadows out. You're thinking of just little tiny petals. And again, I can put the light that you see. I can start first, like let's go right down here. I wanted to have some blue ones right in here. I can start first by giving more of a lighter little blue color. So I paint basically the shape of the lilac with this real light little blue. Boom, boom, boom. Out like this. Okay. And even if you have to, a great way to do this, so I'll stack this and I'll start softening it out. So I'll start that and then set that brush down for a minute. Go to like my smaller little number 4. And now I'll take a medium blue violet here. medium color, not quite as dark, maybe a little bit more blue, right up in here, lighter, and not quite as light, okay, a little darker, and start painting out till I leave, just like I did with the feathers, if that makes sense, leaving the little light edge. And I don't want to do it on them all. I just want to do it on a few of them so that you get the feeling of the little light edge of the lilac. See? Boom, just like that. And not perfect, just paint some of them out here. So leave some of those lighter little edges and paint some of them out. And you can go back and, you know, restate some lighter edges, especially on the ones that are going to be right up around him that you want to detail up a little bit. But we definitely don't want to do too much detailing in here because we want these little flowers to be behind him and setting, you know, back a little bit. Now we can put some of these even lighter ones right up here like this, maybe coming right up over him here, right there, so he sets into the composition a bit. And take some of that darker color and paint right up to the edge. So you give the impression of those little lilacs and stuff there. Let's go with some softer pink colors. And so back here, I'll start maybe giving some of the light colors or light edges here. And just little marks that you start to see the feeling of little flowers, but we're not painting the flowers, if that makes sense. We're not going in and painting all the little flowers. We're doing it impressionistically. Let's take some of this darker blue violet right in here. So it's really nice is if you get some deeper tones. Here's the blue and the quinacridone, which is really pretty, really a pretty purple. The blue and the quinacridone here. And add some of these pretty little shadows through here. Right up in there. Not a tremendous amount of contrast, but get some in there. Push that around a bit. Soften it out. Here, right? Let's push some of that right in here. Push it around. See that little open medium, everything's wet. So, and so we're painting more impressionistically, if that makes sense. We're not going to do too many perfect little flowers and all that kind of stuff. You can, but it will just detract. We'll paint a few ideas of them. You give that little bit of light, if you want to make that little light petal edge, and then you come back and paint it out with a touch of dark, and you get that light little ring lilac. But I'm just going to make them more impressionistic here, more than anything. And so you'll see them just kind of fading out. Maybe a little lighter ones back out here. Just the impressionism of them. I like that. Some of this dark. Let's add a little bit of the open medium to it. Really pretty little darks can come back in here and make the highs and lows and shadows in between different layers of them. You know, because you'll see all kinds of highs and lows and little shadowing tones of them in between the layers of lights and darks on them. So, they're right up in here. Right there. And let's put some lighter blues back there. Here we go. Let that just kind of fade off into these lighter colors. Boom, just like that. Back there. And yeah, I like that. And you know, something thinking about, and this is what I always talk to you about the harmony of stuff, right? Let me put a few more little lights right out here. Little ideas of them. Boom, 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 boom. Right up over some of that right there. But see, now we have to think about the harmony of our painting here, and this is what is so important. So on the Kingbird here, we have this brighter yellow. So we have our softer yellow, which maybe we should enhance a little bit back here so the yellow picks up through. But then I'll take that softer yellow oxide here, and I might add it just lightly through some of my background here, just as a whisper of it, so I pick up that tone. Does that make sense? That's the harmony of the painting. And so, you know, where do you see some of that other yellow and stuff coming through? And it's a real pretty tone. And we could do it with an idea of some larger yellow greens as well, you know, which you would have some of the ideas here of, because we're painting impressionists. We're impressionists right now. We're not painting realism. So we'll think some leaf colors and stuff like that around through there. But see how all of a sudden it starts to pick up some of that really nice, you know, yellows and stuff like that that goes through there, which will help quite a bit. I'm going to take a darker, let's take some of this violet, blue, burnt sienna. I'm going to add some open medium so I get a little sliding and a little transparency here. And I'm going to increase that lost little edge back there into a shadow. I lifted his wing up more closed than what this one is. So when I drew him, I lifted it up a little bit more closed, which I liked better. But I should probably put that deeper shadow right there and bring this line just a little heavier right there. But I like that bit of a violet sitting, a lilac sitting right there above him. So let's go back and add some light little touches. Maybe goes out a little farther. Okay. Here a little bit. There, you know, it gives it the little sparks, and of course how much you want to add, that's up to you. Here, maybe a few little bits, and then you can, if you really want to make them look like the little lilacs, you paint a bit of dark right in there. Go back just a touch darker, leaving just a little touch of the light right around the edge, and you have the look of little lilacs here. In other words, don't get so perfect. You don't need to be perfect when you're painting these. They don't need to be perfect in any manner or means here. Yeah, I like that. Now, let's look. Let's add a... So I've got a lot of contrast right through here. I want to maybe play a minute. Might ruin it, but I don't think so. But we don't know. So we're going to try. We're going to take a bit of our darker color here. Blue in this. And we're going to get ready with our paper towel just in case. Maybe a little open medium. So we got lots of time to refine this a bit. Okay. And we're going to pull that deeper shadow right down here. This is the impressionism that I like. Okay. Now don't worry yet. Okay, then we're going to pull it down and just tap through here. And this is what I really like in the impressionism, and pulling some of those highs and lows and that movement, you know. Let's take a little extender so it thins it out. And let's just, you know, through there like that. And then we can soften that with a bit of the lighter. Let's take some blue and just some lights. Just some of these light colors here. Just through that. So we get this downward motion. And then I'm just going to come back and soften some of this downward motion with a few little marks here. And these are little blurry ones going away. So we'll have more of these little detailed ones right in there. And they get like really blurry going down and through and away right there. And so that worked out kind of nice. I could bring a few of these up a bit more. That's up to you. That's a personal choice. I could bring a little bit of that blue and light and go back up a little bit lighter right in here. A few of those, right in there. And maybe even take some of this super dark and just a little bit, leave the light edge of the petal. So it's basically you put on a full big size light and then you come back and paint some of it out. And that's what gives you, the look of them. So, because when you look up real close, you'll see they have a real light little edge. So you got to figure out a way. And you can come back with a light little edge and a smaller brush and just roll over to the edge. And, especially on a few of them that are right around the bird. Now, I wouldn't go all over the place because you'll start adding too much interest and it will detract from him. And you don't want to do that, but you can do this. And how many of these do you do? Until you don't like, until you start to get too many. And you can get, and you'll start to detract from him where he's no longer as important, So you got to worry about that. But let's put a little more dark right here. And let's take artist license here, which means this is something I'm not seeing, but I'm going to add it anyway. A little lighter yellow mark right down here. And I'll just push that through right there with my finger. Bring that right in. Now I want to run this a little closer to that lilac that's right there. Otherwise it just looks like the lilac is outlined with the dark. And see, I don't like that because it looks like his body pushes in a bit. So I'm going to run these two together for a second, right there, which will soften that out. And then I'll come back and put that little light blue lilac. Let's get rid of that yellow out of my brush. I always like putting something up on top that helps them sink it, but I don't like the shadow that runs around sometimes. So see, that looks just a little bit better. Otherwise, it looks like his chest kind of curves in, and I did that for years, in some paintings, and I didn't like that as much. But so we'll just work some of those colors right in there. That looks pretty nice. And let's rework that light that's right there. Get rid of that blue. That blue doesn't need to be in there too much. Maybe a touch of it, but not too much. There like that. Now, he has, I like that he has a little bit more defined, even a kind of almost bluish tone right in there. So let's just push that in a bit, a little bit more, so that pops that out a bit more. And then it's up to you, how much more detailing. Now his head's turned towards us a bit more than what that guy is, so I'll leave some of that, and I'll leave a few little marks here, and working that around him, and maybe soften just a bit. Almost done here, just a bit softer here. Just take out just a touch of that dark. I took out quite a bit there. Maybe add just a touch of the violet right in there. There. That just puts more of the violet-y tones back into him there. And, you know, it's a judgment call now, what you're going to do and how much you're going to do, finding which way you like it. I want to cut this off just a bit more. Here. There we go. Just like that. I softened some of those darks. I may have softened it too much, but it's up to you. That's kind of neat. He does pop off of that. He could have just a touch lighter, maybe a little bit of blue right up there, just to soften that head. His eye really pops off. And, you know, his beak and stuff here comes off, I think, enough. We could soften that with just some lights, even a little bit more. It's up to you, you know, how much light and soft you want to push back up there. And that is up to you. Let's just push a little bit, some of this blue and violet dark here. Restate that one more little time. There we go. And it does not need to be absolutely perfect there, but just like that. So, you know, final little things that you can do if you, you know, if you want, you can sharpen up any of those edges on him. You know, bring up any of the edges of the feathers. I think I'm just going to leave, you know, I might put a little bit more of the edge. Let's go with a kind of a yellowy gray here. A few more light edges right in here. Right in there. Just, and then I'll soften them out. A little burnt sienna and green, which is a great little brownish kind of base tone from him. I've got that dark in there already. So I'll just base that right up here. Just take some of it out, leaving a little more yellow. And do you want to put that super light edge in there? I have it right there. You know, that's up to you for contrast. You know how to do it. You know, you can just put a little corner here and draw a little more specific edge, or you can, you know, do like I do with the petal edging technique, and you know, like on roses. That's where that came from, is this bird painting, and just slide those up like that and create more of that edge of that feather. How much do you do? That's up to you. Here, do you want maybe another little edge right in there of that coming through? Soften that out. That's kind of neat. Here, maybe an edge right here. Right like that. There. That's kind of pretty on him. But, you know, will I do any more down in through here? Probably not. I might take a real soft violet shadow. Let's add some open medium here, maybe even a little thin. Open medium and extender can be mixed together all the time. A little thin, push just a bit more of a shadow right in there. And let that just stay blurry. Let the main emphasis come right out here on him. And yeah, he gets pretty. Now, he's a little, I drew him a little thinner. He's a little more puffier. That's one reason why I'm not building up here even more. I like the thinner body on him. So, you know, I'm going to leave that. That's up to you. And let's just add a tiny bit more yellow. I don't know if you can hear that. The mic picks that up. We've been having thunderstorm after thunderstorm, and obviously we're getting a downpour right now. Right now, just a downpour. So a little more yellow right in there. It's kind of pretty. And don't forget to add little sparks of that yellow right around. I didn't use any of that Diarylide, but boy, that's really kind of pretty too. Just add some sparks of that yellow through. Just every once in a while, because it's real pretty, and it can go in just as what I call little sparks of yellow, you know, little bits and sparks. And then that just helps that carry through, you know, and even some, you know, wonderful, like I always talk to you in each one of these videos, you know, I talk to you about the harmony. And so even just softening it out and putting like a yellow down like this, just see how that pulls that down, see? So you might consider just like grabbing some of this. Depends on how brave you are as a person, as an artist, and just doing that and see how it puts that yellow right through there. And then take that same tone of yellow and maybe compress one side of him with that tone, and you carry that harmony through, okay? So there's all kinds of, do we want to do more down here? Yeah, you can. You know, a really great look, and let me just show you this before, and then we're done, because I'm over an hour. I'm just almost to an hour and a half, and I said, ooh, 1 hour. So it's to just come in here, and let's just put in some soft ones, just every once in a while, and let them just trickle down, like these are ones sitting up on top. Does that make sense? Right up through here. So you let them just kind of trickle down like this. That little bit gives more volume, if you can imagine it, gives more volume to your painting. So then I'll come back here with a little bit of the blue and violet, slightly darker, maybe a little bit more of the blue, and just take some of that out here. A little bit of the blue. And see, that gives those little light edges here, but it gives a lot of volume because you have the edges. What do we call the found edges and the lost edges? These are lost edges. These are little found edges. So they just kind of trickle down through there like that. And it really looks neat. So, you know, don't just think you have to have a clump of them all together, but you can just do this, just kind of trickle them off. And so you may come all the way up here, and Impressionists do this, and may have just one or two of them right out there. Or maybe there's going to be one or two just right out here. You pick up that edge a bit right out there. See, just a little edge. And it's just really pretty. And it's just looking at the lilacs and stuff like that in a little bit different way, okay? So there you got it, okay? I hope you enjoyed it. That's a nice little painting. I love this. Especially, you know, what's really great, guys, especially is, you know, when you're using, and I just threw it away, but it's, right here it is right here. You know, you're using paper towels that have a lot of the colors. And you see, I always paint with the paper towel. I always get this around me. And then I use, especially towards the end of that painting, I use those paper towels to help drag that color. And it gets multiple colors here. And it's really thin. And see, you know, it looks like you've blended it all with oils, and you haven't. You just used them in a little bit different way, you know. And I like that. And I can even do stuff like this, like take this paper towel, put a little bit of water on the edge of this, and just come right back in here, even where this is dry right in here, and work that edge right there on him, and soften that back right in there where he disappears down in there a little bit more, if that's what I want to do. Or maybe I want to set a burnt sienna, raw sienna tone down in there that's a little darker. Let him fade down in there a little bit more. Push that right into those violets and stuff. But using that paper towel and stuff in there is really great. And don't forget, though, that you do have to give him some kind of little idea of his foot in there as well. So we'll do that with the idea of his foot. But anyway, all kinds of fun things. You can, you know, put a little more dark on the top of his head right here if you feel that, you know, he's lost, you know, just a touch too much. Even more towards the blue here. Let's go right up here. A little more towards the blue, burnt sienna, a little bit more of a dark. So you don't need to go over everything, just right back through here and push till you soften that out a bit. And you can see you get that little bit of dark, and he advances again. How much do you want him to advance? You could put some of that dark right down through there. How much do you want? That's all contrast. How much contrast do you want to have inside of him sitting in some of these lilacs and stuff, okay? Lots of stuff that you can do. And every one of us, and this is the one thing you remember, every one of us is different. Every one of us is going to like, you know, different different way of doing things and stuff. My job is to just show you some of the techniques you can use as an acrylic artist, or some of these techniques can be used in with the oils. If you're painting with oils, don't touch them though. Use a brush. Always use a brush, or you could use a paper towel or something like that. And you see people today painting with the rubber gloves and everything. And I got a nice compliment where some people ask, well, why do you say don't use oils? I got oil poisoning when I was 25 years old, and so many years ago, and I've been very, very cautious ever since then. I was sick for a very long time, and I never want to. All my fingertips split and everything, and I never want to go back through that again. So I've made sure that my life has lived a non-toxic life ever since. And but you see people wearing rubber gloves and all that kind of stuff, and you can do whatever way you want to follow. This is the way I want to do it. And I don't force anybody into doing anything that they don't like to do. But kind of pretty, kind of fun, and very, very different. Put him in a kind of a darker frame. Pull some of those colors out. Some of these colors down in through here, pulled into the back. If you want to get more contrast through, your lilacs and stuff like that, you can do that. If you want to paint just a smaller clump next to him, you can do that. But he's real pretty in all these tones. I thought we did a really good job in capturing some of the tones. And now when I look at him, I could even see some of these violet tones right in there. Do you see that? Adding some of that little bit of violet and stuff right in there. Boy, we just, sometimes you just got to stop, but then sometimes you just can't stop. So a little bit of that violet tones. It's all good harmony, right? Just a little bit. Let's just take a little bit of that right in there. Oh, that's pretty. Just a little hint of those violet tones right in there. Look at that. That is kind of pretty. What you hope as an artist is that you see all of this little bit before you varnish and stuff, but you don't always. But that's called art. But some of that's real pretty. Don't get too carried away here, Dave, but that is really nice. That's really pretty right in through there. Beautiful coloring. Okay, but that's what you see. And that's the main thing, guys, that if I was to give you like the biggest kind of hints to help your career, to help you everything out, is always look for that harmony. Always look to ways in which that you can get that crossing of the colors and getting that harmony to the painting. Otherwise, you can get some of these colors out here where it goes to blue, to violet, to yellow, and it can be very jarring. So if you're looking at your painting and you go, ooh, it's very jarring, it could be a value thing, too much light against too much dark, but it could also be just the hue contrast. There's 8 rules in color theory that we use to develop contrast. And I have all of them up here, and I've used them for years and years and years. And at some point, hopefully, you'll study color theory. I have a big, long online course that's all on color theory, and I've taught color theory for 40 years. But it all deals around with harmony. So how you bring these colors together. And sometimes it's a hue contrast thing where you bring it in that way. Sometimes it's a simultaneous contrast, disproportionate color contrast. These are all things that we use as artists to bring this all together. But then as we relax those rules and cross over and bring colors in over each other and crossing, we increase the harmony. Or you give a common color, or what some of you have probably heard of the word mother color, a common color to everything. And there's all different kinds of ways. But, even that little bit of violet, look at how it brings him back into the painting again. Yeah, and there's so many different ways. You don't want to do it so much that you lose it. And some of you may really like it. Some of you go, no, I don't like it. I like the boom, 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 It's up to you, okay? Lots of ways. I'm just going to show you pathways, and then you choose, all right? Thanks very much. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Go over to the Paint It Simply channel, please, and subscribe to that one. I put one up there, which a painting I did several years ago, little church, and I'm showing the painting of the everything first with just water, showing you how easy with just 6 colors and water, how to paint things. I'm going to go do some roses this afternoon for that channel, where I'm going to show you how to get dimensional depth using just water and 6 colors between 2 roses. We'll talk a little bit about the theory and put that on there. That lesson will probably be up in 2 or 3 days up on the Paint It Simply channel. And again, you can look into the video description for a link over there. So go over there and subscribe to that one as well. Okay. Thanks very much, guys. And I think we'll go back to maybe a landscape or something like that next. Let me know. And then we'll see you on the next one. Okay. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.